Hi everyone, and welcome to our November edition of the Service Management User Group. As always, with our user group sessions, we do record these. So if you are not with us live and you're watching this on recording, hopefully you were able to find the recording from our user group page. For those that are live with us, we should have a Q&A panel open. So you should be able to use that to post any questions to us during today's session. All right. So as always, this is our Service Management User Group, or SMUG, as we like to call it. They occur on the second Wednesday of every month. We obviously try to give you all the latest news and updates that are coming from us in the product group. And we also want to devote some time at the end of every session, subject to what we're presenting to you, of course, to ask any questions or engage with your peers on any particular topics that you might have. As I said, everyone should be on mute. You can use the Q&A panel to ask any questions, either on the sessions and as we're going through what we're presenting, or if needs be later on, we'll even take you off mute if required. We obviously have three different types of user group session or categories that we set up. So release deep dives, feature spotlights, or guest speakers. Today drops into that release deep dive type of content. So we're going to do our normal round of news and updates on patches. But then my good colleague Steve is with us today, and he's going to give a little bit of a demo around the new consolidated inbox feature. And then it's going to come back to me, and I'm going to do a little bit on the latest Aviator update, specifically the out-of-the-box AI enriched workflows. And as I said, if we have time at the end, we'll also open it up for Q&A as well. All right. So first things first, as always, let's cover our patch release notes and what is available. On the 24.2 release branch, the 24.3.2 patch has been released. As we stated in the past, remember, we have major releases and minor releases, and 24.3 is in the patch cycle for 24.2. So the latest release there for .2 includes 7 fixes for SMAX and 4 for CMS. Please make sure to read the release notes and also check to make sure if there's any of the previous patches or have any particular steps that you need to implement as part of doing the deployment. Obviously, the link there will take you to the patch notes for that release. Of course, for our SaaS customers, this one is not applicable because you are already, or if not, I've either got this patch applied or about or in the process of being upgraded to 24.4. Speaking of 24.4, we have our 24.4.1 patch has been released. This includes 15 fixes for SMAX, 4 for UCMDB and 2 for OO, but also includes a new enhancement. It includes a Gmail API connector in Integration Studio. And whilst Sumajit is on the line, I'm going to talk in a few moments about Helm. He will be talking in our next SMAX Service Management User Group in December and about that particular connector and some of the other features of Integration Studio. So you get all the details related to that update at the link that we provided, obviously, in the meeting, or as always, go to our docs portal, so docs.microfocus.com, search for obviously the product, and then choose your selected version. Just something to be aware that I found out today is because we're in the process of rebranding with an open text that's starting this week. Obviously, SMAX, as we call it, is still a name that we will continue to use for a while, but it's now being mainly referred to as Open Text Service Management. That actually means that in the documentation portal, you will see an entry for Open Text Service Management and an entry for Service Management Automation X. The Service Management Automation X will cover everything up to 24.3, whereas Open Text Service Management will show from 24.4 onwards. It's a little bit of a wrinkle we've had with our product documentation as part of the name change that's occurring, but it is obviously should be easy to find. And if there's any questions, feel free post in the chat. We're happy to help guide you on that way. All right, hope that's clear about our patches. And as a reminder, as we always say, whilst we do have a quarterly release cycle, we do split them out between even number and odd number releases. So the even number releases are our main releases, which include all the main features and enhancements, and may have some downtime during that update process. Whereas our odd number releases are typically aligned with the patch updates, shouldn't cause any downtime. At least from our perspective, we consider them to be zero downtime. The update effort is obviously a lot more minimal in comparison because it's like a patch deployment, and obviously are part of the overall patch sequence as well. As we just talked about, 24.3 patch .2 would be suitable if you are running 24.2 as the latest version to go to. All right, hope that is all clear. Samajit, I hope you are on the line and you can quickly talk about Helm.
Right, can you hear me, Paul?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Right, so with 24.2, we made the first attempt to standardize our installation process. And what we have chosen is one of the industry standard to make sure that we align to our cloud native foundation of using a release vehicle that is more efficient, more industry standard, simplifies your installation upgrade process. So with 24.4, we make it generally available for all customers. 24.2 was a controlled availability. We had quite a few customers already moved to Helm-based install of SMAX for their self-hosted SMAX. And with 24.4, we intend to make sure that Helm is the vehicle that you use for installation and upgrade. One of the important point to note over here is the classic way of installation of SMAX is deprecated with 24.4. Helm transformation when you do an upgrade to 24.4 is mandatory. To move forward with 25.1, 25.2, and so on and so forth, it will always have to be via Helm charts. Helm chart considerably eases your, all of the upgrade automation process, install process, and it is much industry standard. It is also easy to maintain. It is easy to onboard for an MSP customer who have multiple of your customers that you manage as a SMAX as a service. For all of you guys, Helm-based install and upgrade would make it much easier, industry standard. And we recommend that when you upgrade from any of the lower versions to 24.4, you transform as a mandatory step. You don't need to do it together. It can be a few days apart, but you do the transformation to Helm. That doesn't change anything from the application point of view, from application functionality point of view. This is all about how you install, how you upgrade. So that's pretty much the message that I wanted to share with the community. Over to you, Dean. If there is any question, we can take it at the last or maybe in the chat.
Sure, not a problem. Thank you so much. So I haven't seen any questions come in. Just to let everyone know,
I see one. Can we perform Helm transformation after classic suite of? Yes. So the intent is when you move from, let me repeat the question. Can we perform the Helm transformation after the classic suite upgrade of 24.4 GA? It is for embedded Kubernetes and Azure. So the answer is yes. When you move from any version lower than 24.4, the first that you need to do is to do a classic update or classic upgrade to 24.4 and do a Helm transform. once you have done the Helm transformation, going forward with 25.1, 25.2, you use Helm chart to do further updates. I hope that answered the question. No other questions so far. That's all.
Yep. All right. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I came in and I didn't quite see that one myself, so thanks for picking that one up. So yes, so obviously that's the situation with Helm. If you have any other queries about that and deploying it, please feel free to put into the Q&A panel. I've also, by the way, put a link in the Q&A panel for the next December session. So if you need to register to connect to that, I believe, have added in the links for the patch notes as well. So you've got those links able to connect to them if you need them. All right, thank you so much. So moving on, I am going to hand over to Steve to talk about consolidated inbox.
Great. Thank you, Dean. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so my plan today is just to do a light walkthrough of the inbox, both a little bit on how you use it, which you should be seeing my inbox screen now, and it might be small for some of you, so let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Hopefully it's not too large. And then also show you where you configure the inbox. So here is the inbox within the My Dashboards section. One reminder that your users can set the inbox as their landing page. Like mine, when I log in, I start on like any default user, agent user, I'm going to start on the chart dashboard. But if I want to, I can set it, assuming Teams doesn't get in the way, which it is right now. Let me move that out of the way, which you can't see. I can go ahead and flag this as being my starting page if this is where I want to start. So some users will probably want to do that. Just a couple things to highlight here. So if you select one of the records, you do get a preview for it, and you can go into edit mode. So if I wanted to go ahead and say that this isn't quite as impactful as originally assessed, and maybe it's just a severe disruption, I can go ahead and make edits right here within the preview panel, as you're used to in the other grids. I can also go ahead and click on the link, and it will open a new page for me to go directly to that record. And then I can edit it there. So efficient in two different ways. Of course, now I need to get back to my other tab. I can sort by record type if I want to. I can modify my columns if there's something else that I want to add. And this is going to kind of lead into the next part that I want to show you, which is how do you make changes to which data is available in the grid in the inbox. So you can see the fields are available here in addition to the ones that are already on the grid. And if I want to make changes to that, I'm going to come in here to Administration into Studio, and we'll open it in a new tab. And go ahead, and if you have any questions, if you've had any questions about the inbox ahead of the session, you can go ahead and put them into the Q&A panel, and we can try to address them. Or, of course, if you think of something during the session, then go ahead and enter that question. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is how you configure which fields are available in the inbox. For that, you need to come to the cross-record settings. And in the cross-record settings have been used previously for notifications. So there's certain notification templates that are used not specific to a record type, but more cross-record settings templates. But now we also have this new inbox tab. And these are the fields that are available in the inbox. Now, we'll cover how you map data to these fields in the next step. So I can go ahead and add additional fields here. There's a few more that you can add. You name them, you give them logical types, just like you would a regular field. Now, For the inbox, this is a federated capability. If you haven't heard that in the release readiness, we don't store any data in the inbox. It's all stored in the standard tables and then federated into the inbox to display. But I can go ahead and add additional fields here. Once I've added a new field here, then I need to map to it. So I see we have a question, which record types are supported for the inbox? So maybe it was on the slide, but we have a few that have it out of box, and it can be used for, you can extend it to additional record types. But let's go and look at it on request. So request is one of, I think, 5 that we have out of box that's enabled, and we could go to an additional one and enable it for the inbox if we wanted to. All right, so here we are on request, and normally you might start on fields, but there's a new, just to show you, there's a new inbox tab over here all the way on the right. And here you would go ahead and enable or disable it. So this controls whether we federate requests into the inbox or not. Then we will have the list of fields from those inbox cross-record settings are available here. And then we have to map fields from request into these fields. So most of these mappings, at least for the out-of-box, are relatively straightforward, especially requests. So title goes to title, assignment groups go to this assignment group. Now, if you're mapping maybe a custom table that you've created that you want to appear in the inbox, maybe these won't be as straightforward, but especially request is very straightforward. We can also look at task. So task is another one that is mapped out of box. And one thing that you'll notice is that, so title and assignee are required. And then we also have, for links to person, to the person table, we also have owner, because a number of modules like request have assignee and owner as separate. Tasks do not. So what we've done, what we've chosen to do out of box is map assignee to both the assignee field and the owner field. And that keeps those populated. So whichever way you're looking at it, you're going to see the person who's assigned to the task. So just something to keep in mind. You're probably better off having data populated if it makes sense. And in this case, we've chosen to kind of duplicate the mapping there. Any other questions that have come in? And that's really, I guess it was pretty quick what I wanted to go through. So we can go ahead and jump on back to the inbox. So you can, just some other things here. So you can filter based on other things. So if I only want to see the critical ones, and here I'm on my group inbox, if I can go to my inbox, of course, and then those are only ones for me. All right. If there are no other questions, Dean, we can send it back to you for the Aviator section.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Not a problem at all. Let me quickly start sharing the slides again. Make sure I go in the right place.
Yeah, if you can bring up that inbox slide.
There is a question, not sure if this is answered. Which record types are supported for the inbox?
So there are 5, I believe it's 5 out of box. Let's bring up the slide because I think I have it listed on there and I don't have the slide in front of me.
Yeah, I added a comment in to the question, Steve. I copied from the slide, so it's
so request, incident, change, problem, task, and you can do 5 more out of box, I believe. up to 10 total. So you could disable some of the out-of-box ones and extend it to up to a total of 10 can be part of the inbox today. So hopefully that covers what you needed to know, Dirk.
Steve, there's two other questions in the chat that have just come through.
Oh, in the chat. I don't even have...
Sorry, not in the chat, in the Q&A.
They are in the Q&A. I see them pop up.
In the review.
If there is some validation in the entity for the phase transition, is it visible also in inbox for update of the record? Yes. So all of the business rules and all of the behavior that you expect if you're editing in the preview, it's going to act just like the preview did in the module specific grid page. So you're going to see if there's any validation errors, if there's any information that is needed to as part of processing the record, any of the business rules that run. Those will all be visible as you would expect. And then the next one, group by is missing. Yes, group by is missing in the inbox. Will you deliver it later? Potentially. So it was out of scope for what we could deliver to get the inbox available in 24.4. If that is what a lot of people would like to see us work on next, then it could potentially be what we work on next. There could be other things that we want to work on ahead of it. So I expect there's a good chance we will deliver it. I'm just not sure when. Is the inbox supporting custom actions? No, I don't believe it does today. Definitely not at the grid level because the custom actions are different for different different modules. So I'm not sharing my screen anymore, but you'll see in the screenshot here, there isn't a way to multi-select multiple records. So you can select 3 records and then do a grid level action on those. And I don't see the custom actions on the preview panel either. So I don't think we have added that. So that might be another one that we could look at adding later. Is not available today. So if you need to use one of the custom actions, you'd want to drill into the detail of the record rather than doing it from the preview. Good question there.
All right. Thank you, Steve. I've put them questions into publish so people can see them. If we can just put a little comment against them.
I will do that while you continue.
All right, brilliant. Thank you ever so much. All right. So moving forward, we're going to do a little bit of look into IT operations Aviator and specifically what we've done for SMAX. Obviously, during the release readiness, I ran a couple of videos of some of the capabilities and we talked about some of the features. I wanted to highlight the list that we went through. So we've updated the Aviator service now to Llama 3.1 8 billion parameter model. So the improved quality of the functionality is greatly enhanced. We've also fine-tuned it on our ITOM product documentation. And that's kind of the first phase of where we're going with helping Aviator better understand our products. Another area that we've done is we now have global search. So we showed how you can, in the release readiness, how you can, when asking Aviator questions, it can search across other similar records. And also we talked about our new Aviator enriched workflow business rule type. So a search, not just doing a direct query to Aviator, you can do a search and bring data in as part of a query, as part of a AI enriched workflow rule, and obviously our extended multilingual support. But what we didn't really get a chance to kind of go through was the out-of-the-box AI-enriched workflows. So today I've put some slides together to kind of walk through that. If needs be, I can jump onto a system and we can share it in a little bit more detail. But I wanted to walk through and talk about what we've added as those out-of-the-box AI-enriched workflows and how you can potentially use them. So we've added I can't count now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I should have done a number count there, shouldn't I? 6 new out-of-the-box AI-enriched workflows. And these are fully customizable by yourself as well. So if you're running Aviator with SMAX, we provide these out of the box, but you can modify them to suit your needs. And that can be from modifying the prompts that we've created that does the request to the large language model, to the way the business rules around these are run. All of these, whilst we have created these enriched workflows, as you can imagine, with some of them where we've got custom actions related to them, or for example, maybe there's some new fields that have been created, there are and will be some steps required for a tenant admin to enable each of these new workflows. I've kind of highlighted a couple of them when it's a new tenant. If you are on an upgrade situation, so you're an earlier customer that's either running Aviator, or maybe you are on an existing tenant and you add Aviator, but you're now on 24.4, you will need to follow the instructions in the documentation on how to set these up. There's a number of instructions which are on the link that I've provided. So the Configure Aviator Use Cases page, it tells you all the extra steps you need to do, whether it's a new tenant or whether it's an upgraded tenant. All right, so let's have a little walk through some of these. The screenshot I got there, by the way, is the privacy one, and I might come back to this slide for that screenshot in a moment. So when we look at that first one, the sentiment analysis for requests, this is obviously something we've demoed in the past. If for those who remember, in our earlier user group when we talked about AI-enriched workflows, we kind of went through this. So the idea behind this is when a request is raised, if the sentiment is negative, so the user puts an update on, say maybe they're upset or they're displeased with their service or what have you, if Aviator analyzes the update and the overall sentiment of the ticket, it will populate a field to determine whether the sentiment is positive, neutral, or negative. Whilst I would love to do some additional actions when sentiment is positive, and I think we should, maybe dish out gold stars if required, we've built the business rules around the sentiment analysis more on the negative side, because that's obviously where probably people want to react to things. So the first one that does the analysis, we have added in the ability where once triggered and once the Aviator has identified that it's negative, it will escalate or transition to the escalate phase if it is in the first line support, and only if it's a support ticket as well. But it will also reassign the ticket. Now, what we have done is, based on some of the feedback we got from a number of customers around the original design and demo we did of the sentiment analysis, is out of the box, when Aviator is enabled and it's a fresh system, the sentiment will be model will run and it will automatically update the fields, and the field exists on the form. But if you wanted to trigger reassigning it, as we kind of do in the demo, or do the move of escalation phase, the rule for the transition of escalate phase already exists on the support requests, but for the assignment group change, you would need to add in an additional rule. And this is all document information I've taken from the documentation. As you can see, we've got a new two settings which are available in your business rules. So tenant settings OTAI enabled, and tenant settings Aviator business rule enabled. So if those are identified as existing in your tenant, and obviously OTAI enabled means Aviator has been added to your tenant. The Aviator business rule enabled tenant setting is the toggle that's in the AI Studio configuration page. If needs be, I can jump to that and show that. But those two settings, if they are there, then obviously they also, there's a number of rules we have in the system which utilize that as an option. All right, so that's the sentiment analysis request, the reassignment aspect. Something new that we added that we didn't do previously is we've also added a escalation notification for requests. So what does this mean? So when the request is escalated due to a negative sentiment, and actually we do it based on the negative sentiment, and the first time it goes negative in the out of the box rule, we have Aviator generate an email to be sent to the user. Excuse me. That email, I've got an example of it there on my screen. I did one a short while ago before today's session, just to show it working. Obviously, it has the details of the request, its current status, whether it's in progress, what have you, and the text that's been put on there relates to what is in the description, and specifically the update that was marked as negative that caused the sentiment to go negative. So in my case, I said I'm in a rush, and I want to get this done as quickly as possible, please. Wasn't happy about the fact that it was taking a while, even though I'd only raised the ticket 3 minutes earlier. But Aviator will write that response back. And then there's obviously a business rule to trigger sending that email using one of the notification templates. Obviously, we've kept that quite basic in what we've put there. You can, of course, modify the behavior in the prompt template of the Aviator model to change the way that it writes that email. So maybe you want to be more direct or statement based. You can obviously do that. Likewise, because it's using a notification, if you wanted to include links to the ticket for the user, just like any notification you send out of the box, you can modify that as well. But in my system, I stripped it down there, so just so we could see the text that was there. All right. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one is the demo that we've presented again. This one was one we presented in a previous user group, is the risk analysis for change. So this actually is two separate Aviator models that get triggered. One to create a descriptive risk assessment on the change itself. And then the second one is to do a risk score based on some standard criteria that's written within the prompt template. So with this one, we've whilst the model exists in the system, there are a number of rules that need to be created. And in this case, you do need to create a couple of extra rules because of it being triggered via a custom action. Okay, so rather than we had a discussion internally and we decided that rather than triggering on it based on going through a particular phase, from feedback we got from different customers about when they want to go through that risk assessment, some said they want to do it early on in their change cycle, whereas others said they prefer to do it as part of going through approvals. We decided to just treat it as the custom action approach for now. So you'll need to create a custom action. That custom action will obviously then, you can define what that's here, but call it risk analysis in the documentation. That's what we call it there. And then you need to create 4 business rules. So what we did with the 4 business rules, there's 2 that are after applying changes to do the calls for Aviator, 1 to do the risk assessment and 1 to do the risk score. And then there's 2 rendering form rules to hide the fields when Aviator is not being used. All right, so we thought do that in case there's no need to display those fields as empty fields because you'd want them to potentially be visible only when Aviator puts there. Of course, you could modify that as you require. So maybe there's some additional criteria you want to put in for generating the score, or maybe there's a specific area you want to take into account for your risk assessment. And likewise, something that we discussed internally that could be something you could do is you could tie it to a phase change, maybe as part of a transition to a particular phase. But likewise, you might want to restrict editing those fields as well. So you might want to make those fields read-only, for example, rather than just standard fields. Of course, all that you can do through the power of our business rules. We'd like to keep the plan as open as possible, and then allow you to configure as you need. Oh, I see there's a question come in, so I'll just quickly cover that, and it related to the previous one. So notifications. So in your send email example, could we imagine to initiate a discussion from agent to user rather than an email? So I guess if I understand correctly, could we initiate a conversation from the agent to the user to do a chat function? I don't think you could with the current business rules.
No, we don't have a chat. Assuming we're talking about chat and not about.
Yeah. I was trying to because obviously.
Is correct. It comment or notification? Yeah, right.
Because you could do it as a comment, couldn't you, Brenda?
Yes.
Because you could
do it as a comment. Yes.
Exactly. So rather than just sending the email, you could add that as a comment and potentially ask the user
the comment itself would still trigger a notification, but it's a different notification.
Correct. But you could, of course, add it as a comment, and maybe as part of that, say, ask the user to come online to initiate a chat as part of that. So not exactly maybe what you was looking for, Oliver, but certainly something that we can look at. And from a future functionality perspective, it's certainly an interesting use case where maybe we want to speak to the user directly at that point. All right, moving on. Okay, so the next use case that we've added is creating knowledge from incidents. Now, you could actually do this on other records because you could do this on request or other records, but we were hooking into a capability that we had already, which was a knowledge candidate field that exists on an incident record. So this is one of these ones where actually the majority of it is there out of the box, ready to work. But the idea is that when the knowledge candidate option is ticked on an incident is selected, Aviator, so that will trigger automatically creating a new knowledge article from that. So there's a business rule that creates the knowledge article, and then that triggers Aviator to utilize the information from the ticket, from the incident, to generate the content of the knowledge. Now, in our Aviator model that we've defined for this, we've been quite prescriptive in the way that we wanted that knowledge article to be written. So, for example, I think if I remember, we focused on a approach of doing like a step-by-step guide in the out of the box. But of course, you could modify that to suit your needs. So if you wanted to maybe have it right in a Q&A type approach or step-by-step guide, or maybe just more generally, that is, of course, an option that you've got in there. The only additional step that we've put in place is to hide the Aviator draft field when the business rules are not enabled. So there's a field called Aviator Draft New, and that will appear on an article next to the content field, and it will populate that. And obviously, from a user's perspective, from a knowledge coordinator, I guess, or a knowledge curator of content, reviewer. We're not populating into the content field because we put the details from the incident into the content field, but you can copy that information into the content field. Of course, you could modify the rules to automatically do that. We just felt, from our perspective, we didn't want to put that in there in case there was additional information maybe you wanted to put into that content field. But you do have that flexibility with our AI-rich workflows to modify as you need. All right, so 2 more to go. So resolving incidents. Now this is a new one that we've added in that we've not demoed before. And what we've done with this one is we've basically taken the concept of potentially auto-resolving your tickets. So what do we mean by that? So when an incident is created, or even when the incident is within its life cycle, we by clicking a resolve custom action in the agent interface, we've set it so Aviator would propose a solution on the information in the ticket, and that is also taking into account similar tickets as well. So it's using that new Aviator search workflow business rule. Now, again, with this one, because it's all driven off a custom action, you do need to add the business rules for it. We don't include those out of the box because custom actions, obviously, just like any other record type, like any other piece of configuration, is not something we can hard code for. And you might want to change the value or the description of that custom action. What that custom action would do, on clicking that, it would populate the solution field using the Aviator business rule. And then we obviously said, create the two business rules, one for triggering the update, and the second one, which is for rendering forms to hide the custom action, hide the custom action if you're not using Aviator. Again, you might want to restrict that on who has access to it. There is the flexibility of doing that within the system. There's certainly no problem with how you trigger that. All right, hopefully that explains that one as well. And I don't see any comments, so that's good. We'll move on. All right, finally, the last one that we've added, which is something that thanks to moving to Llama 3.1, is something that we've been able to do, that we've incorporated as part of our HR content we've done in the 24.4 release. So this is all about privacy control of requests. And what we've done in this particular case is we have Aviator analyze the data that's in the ticket. So the description, for example, that's been for the ticket that's been submitted. And based on these 4 sets of criteria you can see on here, so personal identifiable information, such as names and contact details, financial information, credit card numbers, bank account details, health information, medical records, health insurance information, or other potential sensitive information, such as authentication credentials or confidential business information. We have put those in within the Aviator model for it to search. And if it identifies any of those, then it would flag on the ticket that there is a potential privacy control needed around that ticket. So in this particular case, what we'll do is we'll say whether it's, should we say, compliant or not compliant. And if it's not compliant, and if data is found, it will reassign the ticket to a HR private sensitive group. Now, in and out of the box, we have created this HR private sensitive group. So when you create, if you create a new tenant on 24.4, that is one of the new out of the box groups. So obviously, if you want to utilize this straight away, you would just need to add users to that appropriate group to see that. We also set the ticket to move into a specific data domain as well, I believe, with this business rule, so no one can see that ticket. I've had some conversations with a few other people, and I think there's also the option that you could maybe restrict access to certain fields as well, if you wanted to make sure that no one could see additional details. But it's quite a nice little example of the power of large language models, being able to review data, pick out key details, and then with our AI enriched workflows, react on that and either reassign the ticket or have someone else do some actions. All right, hope that helps explain that one. That's all that we've got for that. Okay, so that's all the out of the box AI enriched workflows. A couple of other things that I wanted to mention in relation to Aviator. So we didn't mention this in the release readiness because it's quite a minor thing, but I think it's quite a good, useful thing if you're starting to get your hands on Aviator. And that is in our Get Started with Aviator page, which is one of the standard Get Started pages we have for each of the different parts of the solution, we've now added a table, which is a comprehensive guide to all the various different sections within our documentation that relate to Aviator. So that includes everything with the initial setup, whether that's a SaaS customer or you're doing hybrid Aviator and you need to do some configuration to connect to our Aviator service. Likewise, setting up those out-of-the-box business rules, doing your initial configuration, but also things like indexing external knowledge using our idle connectors, right? We put the link in there so you can jump to that section of the integration documentation to help quickly get started and get up and running. It's only a little minor thing, but I think it's quite a powerful little help navigator around, especially when our documentation can be a little bit unwieldy when there's a lot of content on there. All right, and finally, something that I wanted to add, we have also added to the item marketplace a little AI-enriched workflow studio app. So what we've created is a daily affirmation studio app, which basically sends you an email every day with a daily affirmation. So what do we mean by daily affirmation? Well, the kind of thing where you'd receive an email related to making you, feel more positive in your daily goings. So I was going to get an example that I could share with you on that one. And in fact, the one I received this morning was, I embody inner strength and compassion, responding wisely to life's opportunities and obstacles. And I'm sure that's a simple message we can all learn to live by. So how does the app work? Well, what we've done is we've created a new record entity, a new studio record entity and some catalog offerings, which are all in the package that's available for Marketplace. And you register a request for your daily affirmation, set a specific time of when you want to receive that affirmation. And then every day at that time, you'll receive an email from the Positivity Guru with a randomly generated affirmation. So we get in the prompt in the Aviator model that we've built, Aviator is generating this daily affirmation based on some certain criteria we've put in there. But we also, when we ask Aviator to do it, we make it aware of the previous affirmations that it's sent to the user. So we keep a log of them on that studio record entity for each user. And that allows Aviator to make sure that each day it's a new and different message to send to them and avoid any duplications. We also added an option to unregister catalog offering as well. And there's also a custom action that we added in so you can trigger it and do some tests with it. Fun little application. And as the person that created it, it was quite fun for doing it. It didn't take very long to build, actually, a couple of hours. So it's fairly quick. And it'll probably take you, it took me longer to document it all and put the package together than it did to actually build the app. But something, if you're interested in Aviator and playing with it, give you a power of something that you could do. And again, you can play around and you can change things like the message that's sent out, should you wish to. All right, just checking, that's everything I wanted to cover. I'm just checking in the Q&A panel. Just want to make sure there's no questions. I don't think any other questions that have come in. Looking at it. Nope. Okay, well, we're almost at the top of the hour, so we'll probably close out there. So obviously, I've talked a little bit too long today. So first and foremost, what I wanted to cover is obviously our upcoming user group session schedule. I did put a link in the Q&A panel to register for our next session in December. And that's where we're going to come and do another deep dive, and we're going to look at Integration Studio. So Sumajit, who is with us today, he's going to talk about Integration Studio and some of the new features we've got in that, including what we released in the 24.4 patch 1. And we're also going to look a little bit around SAM as well. So I think we're going to look at the compliance dashboards feature that's there. And then when we come back in January, we'll have our 25.1 release readiness. And then in February, we're going to do a Get Hands-On with Aviator Enablement Week. So the week of the actual user group session, we're going to be doing a week of drop-in sessions related to getting you up to speed with Aviator and getting to play with it in our trial environments. So if it's something you're interested in, we'll provide details on registering for that as of our December session, and then we'll remind people obviously in January as well, and we'll let you know all about that at the time. Just a note with the community pages, as I mentioned at the beginning of today's session with the product documentation, there is a few changes on the community pages with some of the links being updated with a rebranding. We will be creating a new SMUG community page. I believe we'll start doing that next week. So we'll share that with the tiny.cc/smug link. That's smug all in capital letters. We'll redirect to the new page once that's created. We'll probably do a blog post as well to let everyone know in the community when that's done. All right. I see one question came in whilst I was talking. Cosim, you mentioned this means user-created apps be also supported in the future, AI Studio. It is today. So AI Studio, and in regards to using AI-enriched workflows with Studio apps, you can do that today. And that's why I put together that example and shared it on the marketplace, because it may introduce or identify new ways of using Aviator that you haven't thought of before. And I hope you found that useful. All right, so with that, we'll close today. Thank you everyone for joining with us on today's session. I hope you found it useful with our deep dive into the 24.4 release, and we'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.